Hey there, it's Rada from Sewing Through Fog, and today I'm going to walk you through how I made this upcycled woven micro quilt from little tiny scraps. So recently I was working on my denim duo quilt pattern, and I was working on this sample that had a bunch of denim, of course, and then a lot of Liberty Tantalon. And the blocks required that I did a lot of trimming where I ended up with all of these really tiny but straight scraps. I do a ton of denim weaving, but nothing really this small, but I thought, why not give it a try? So I grabbed a piece of cotton muslin, I grabbed a lot of little clips, and I pulled some of the better and straighter denim and Liberty Tantalon scraps. So I started grabbing the denim ones. I didn't mind that there was a bunch of fraying going on because I knew I was going to do a tighter weave. I didn't even grab strips that were all the same width. They kind of varied between, well, you can see like, gosh, smaller than 1/8 of an inch to maybe at the most 1/4 of an inch. I varied the colors between kind of lighter and darker, and then using the little clips, I clipped them along the top of the cotton muslin. Sometimes I would need to cut one off because I wanted to use more of that certain strip. So I kept clipping the denim along the top until it measured about 4 inches. That was the size of the micro quilt that I wanted to make. I then took it all to my machine and did one straight stitch along the top to replace the clips and hold all of the denim down. And then I started to grab the strips of Liberty Tantalon and cut them into more manageable sizes, and I just started to weave them into the denim. Now you might notice that there's no fraying on the Liberty Tantalon strips, and that's because before I used them for the quilt, I used a fusible interfacing on them, and that's a tip if you are going to mix really lightweight fabric like Tantalon with denim. It's nice sometimes to put on a fusible. It gives it a little bit more weight. It makes it a little bit more stable if you're going to pair it with something heavy. Now, there isn't really a right or wrong way to weave as long as you're just weaving. I like to alternate different colors, but really that's it. Maybe alternate different widths of strips, but there is no kind of special trick here. You just have to experiment and see what you like. Now, one thing to note though, when you're weaving, everything's going to get a little bit wonky, and that's totally okay because once you've finished weaving, you can kind of see I'm doing it here, reposition everything to get a little bit of a straighter weave. So you can see this is what it looked like when I felt good about the position of everything. And I just went back to my machine and stitched one straight line around the edges to secure them down. And then I trimmed right around that straight line. Now, I could have stopped here and used this for a bunch of different things, but I wanted to make this micro quilt. So I grabbed a little scrap of batting that was probably about, 5 inches by 5 inches, and I grabbed this piece of chambray for the back. It was pretty lightweight because I didn't want to add a lot of bulk. It was obviously a little bit bigger than everything else, and I held that together with clips. I didn't feel like I needed to baste it, like spray baste it or hand baste it or pin it, because it's so tiny, it's not going to move around a lot. So then I took it over to my machine and did really simple straight lines quilting right between the strips. The next step was to trim it down. And again, I decided I wanted this to be 4 inches by 4 inches. So I just used this little tiny ruler and my rotary blade, and I cleaned up the edges to make a 4-inch by 4-inch square. And you can see what the back looks like here. Just an easy grid. Now, you have a lot of options when it comes to finishing a quilt. I knew I didn't want to bind it because I didn't want that line, that square around the outside. So I decided to do a facing. Now, if you want to learn more about facing, I really recommend you look up a tutorial just on facing quilts because can be a little bit complicated. So I'm going to show you, but I suggest doing a little more research. So what I did is I had these little strips of that chambray, and I sewed them on almost kind of like wings, one to each side, because the whole thing is you're then going to turn it under so you don't see it at all. And after I'd done the 2 sides, I grabbed 2 more pieces and did the top and bottom. So that basically there was a bunch of these kind of wing things sticking out everywhere. And again, the point is you're going to turn them all under and get a really clean finish. And how did I get a clean finish and turn that under? Well, I ironed the heck out of it. I just kept going in a circle and pressing under little wings until I got really clean edges, and then I clipped it all around. And then I brought it back over to my machine to do the final quilting lines to hold it all together. And I mean, it looked really cute, but it felt like it was missing something. I mean, I am not a maximalist, but for some reason, I felt like this just needed like more stuff. And I remembered, because I've been trying to get better at hand embroidery, I now have all these amazing silk and cotton, colorful embroidery threads. So I pulled those out and I started making tons of these little French knots. It's actually a pretty easy embroidery technique, but again, it's something that I would look up a tutorial of if you want to try with someone showing you exactly how to do it, because I am not an expert. And that's it. That's how I made this upcycled woven micro quilt from denim and Liberty Tanalon scraps. So thanks for watching and keep on upcycling.